让我们一起踏上一段探索的旅程，见证全球视野下正在掀起的能源大变革，关注千行百业可持续发展的未来。行业领袖对话，新锐技术分享，权威趋势解析，尽在方博探讨室。
In relation to that, the European Union increased its targets.
Starting from the AC power, which is the consumption from the source, to the DC power, which is using the diesel generators, and moving to either solar power solutions.
And if we want to succeed, we have to be more efficient in terms of energy usage and carbon impact.
By using this high temperature, or let's say this, then you can use more free cooling.
We keep the cycle going on in a way that we eliminate e-waste.
Because electricity is the more performance way to reduce CO2 emission. Renewable energy are changing the world and changing the concept of geostrategy.
They are about the 7.5 million site and also thousands of the data center for the operator from the worldwide perspective. I know some of the operator already use their site location, a site place to build the solar for the several solar panel to power the base station. So I want to ask you guys whether you have some plan or any suggestion so the operator can reuse their property. So first of all, they can help themselves to reduce the CO2 emissions. Second of all, whether they can use this one to earn the money from the grid.
I think we have to remember the scale we are talking about of energy usage. Solar needs space. Space is not so easily available. Depends on the country. Space means social acceptation, challenge, and space means a cost. With a typical one site, this solar implementation you can do in Europe will cover 10 to maximum 20% of the
Only
need.
10 to 20%.
Maximum of the need of the base station. Okay, unless you expand a lot the space which is used, and then you face the issue of social acceptability and cost. So this is why solar on site is important, is a good tool, but it will never be the solution. It has to be part of a mix of solutions. In the mix of solution, you have again PPA, because this is the only way to have large-scale production in the most cost-effective option. You have, especially more for Africa, you will have the alternative option around mini-grid. And at the same time, this mini-grid developer will allow the neighborhood to get access to electricity.
I think if I may share the experience of Zen regarding on-site solar solutions, we have a rule for deploying such solutions. One of the conditions is that the site load should be 2 kilowatt or less, because more than that, space will be an issue, especially in the urban area. And then the site should be located in a place where actually you can afford, or you can have some space enough, actually, as you just mentioned now, Hervé mentioned. If you take site located in some places where you have rooftop, you cannot have enough space actually to power your site. And at the same time, the load of such site is minimum 5 kilowatt. And 5 kilowatt, for you to secure the space on a building to have complete solar system covering that load, it will be a little bit difficult. So that's why we put one of the rules. You need first to see, sometimes it's a rural site. We have good experience with Huawei, by the way, in some of our countries, where we deploy some solar system, and for, let's say, 1 week, and sometimes 1 month, you visit only the site once and you refill it. And even when you refill it, it's like 200 liters of fuel. And even the next month, you don't need to go to the site, for example, because it's functioning on solar power. On-site solar is one of the solutions, definitely, but it cannot be the solution for all the sites. It has to be specific to the location and specific to the load of the site that actually you want to power. And of course, if PPAs are available, in some countries, you don't have PPA power. You can't have it. It needs regulatory conditions. It needs government approvals. And it's not there. And sometimes even you get the license and the government will come and tell you, don't use the license, wait for some time. So PPA is good, but it has to be available. Otherwise, you can't use it.
Yeah.
The example you're taking is when you want to use solar panels basically to power 100% of your site. I see it a bit differently. I think any variable surface, when you have the possibility, you should put solar panels. I got an example in mind in France, in Bordeaux, where basically we installed PV panels on the rooftops. It's covering 20% of the power consumption of the site. But this 20% is still 20% of less electricity consumed from the grid and CO2 emissions. It's green. Example is in Turkey. They've got a bit more space on their sites, modernize this to have one side, one cabinet, outdoor cabinet, and we install PV panels. The result is basically they're getting 70% of the energy from the solar panels on the site. So they're basically supplying 12,000 kilowatt of green energy every year, and they're saving a lot of money. So based on this, they decided to deploy it over the next 3 years, more than 2,500 sites in such a way, in such a model. So this is for mobile sites. Now if you got rooftop, again, it will not power 100% of your central office or your data centers. But again, it may be only 10% in this case or sometimes less. But it's still some savings. If there is no small rivers, the small rivers are making the big ones. If everyone is doing this. And then you got solar farms. If you got land around the big data centers, then you can have your own solar farm for your own production or through a PPA agreement. It's different models, but I think we have the solutions. I read a study in France. If every rooftop of any residential places could be used for installing solar panels, you could power all Europe. So, and then you don't need to use special lands or farming lands. If we have the opportunity, you should put solar panels where you can put solar panels. It won't be 100% of energy in most cases, for sure, but it's still a contribution to our planet. The ROI, if I take Turkey, for example, was less than 5 years. So of course, depending if you put 2, 3, 5 panels, 6 panels, 12 panels, the ROI will be different. But if you have a plan to say, I'm going to get 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 sites, and do a rollout and install some solar structure on these sites, then you can reduce your service costs, then you can improve your ROI.
One of our strategies this year, deploy no matter actually, even if it's 5%, 10%, 15%, even up to 20% you can save on your energy. The second part of your question, Dr. Fan, regarding the possibility of us to sell the energy back either to the grid, for example, it depends on the infrastructure. In some of our markets, like in Jordan, for example, the infrastructure is there. You can put solar panel on your site, on your roof somewhere. On the daytime, you use whatever you can use. The extra power, you transfer that power to the grid. But again, the infrastructure needs to be in place. The grids need to allow you to do so that you can do it. But in some of our market, this infrastructure is missing. And this is a discussion as part of the decarbonization of the grid. This is a discussion we can have with the government. If the government actually start bringing their own solar plants and putting the infrastructure in place, and even they can partner with us as MNOs, and we can also bring the solution to them to allow them actually to take some of the unused power and then feed it into the grid so that we can save, definitely. But the infrastructure needs to be there.
I would like to, I agree with all the comments, of course, but say that one question is the problem with the weakness of the grid in many countries, particularly the countries where I speak now. But another alternative is storage. Storage every day is more competitive. It's one alternative that the companies can have to have to introduce this surplus in the storage. And energy efficiency, self-consumption, complemented with PPA, have problems in some countries, but it could be a solution. I would like that the operator perceive this ecological transition to as an opportunity of new business models, because the management of this surplus with smart grids, with all demand-side management, together with transport, with everything, with all these artificial intelligence, so and so, can give one opportunity with the operator to create this smart cities, the smart island, the smart regions. One way to produce and consume electricity very different that we understand today, but it's a new world that we try to create it.
Yeah, I think on this, definitely MNO are a good enabler to support the energy transition. We have the capability to provide the connectivity services which are needed for a modern grid. When you move to a modern grid, you have a lot of distributed power capability. You need to align permanently usage versus production and in a distributed way. For this, you absolutely need to have a strong connectivity available across all the actors. On top of this, we can also provide, for example, mobile money, which is very efficient in a country like Africa to allow every user to really pay small bit by small bit the energy which is used. It's a very powerful tool to allow electricity to be put available for everyone, where it will not be possible in a traditional grid-centric model. So definitely we are there and we are strong enabler for the evolution of the grid, of more green electricity for everyone. On the other side, as seen from Orange, we don't think that our business is to be a power generator. It's a different business from Telco. From Orange point of view, we are Telco. We want to focus on our core business, which is Telco, to provide everyone the tool and connectivity which will enable a better usage of energy. But we don't see us as power direct actor.
Telco in the future will not be only telecommunication actors. I think, in my vision, the companies must give answer to needs. And the needs every time will be more interrelated. You could be a producer of electricity, and you could be too a storage electricity. And you can use this electricity for many things, but you need a signal, maybe to sell this electricity in the right moment with intelligent, with demand-side management. But we need interconnectivity for that. Then all the business will be more interrelated. And I think the companies who will have this vision will be the winners in the future.
I mean, we as homeowners, we're becoming, a small power plant for our own usage, sometimes to resell to the grid if you are connected. Batteries, of course, obviously a good way, basically, to improve the efficiency of our installations, being on telco or being on residential or being even on solar farms. So we just built, a big data centers in the Middle East, which is only powered by sun. But for this, you need storage. So we got a lot of, energy storage batteries, which can provide the energy during the night when there is no sun, because then it won't work. I think now there is many actors who can become more of virtual power plants.
I talked to many operators. I think most of them think to build the solar solution for their site. First one is to reach their carbon neutrality target, because before they don't want to use a solar solution because of the payback and the ROI is not good. It's quite bad. Normally, before the energy crisis in Europe, they told me the payback about 10 years almost. So it's not worth for operator to build a solar solution for their site. But now with the energy crisis, the electricity cost increase much more. So many operators would like to choose the solar solution to power the base station. So because of the ROI and payback is better than before. So I think this is one way. I also agree with you guys. I also want to share another experience that's in Japan. In Japan now they have the very ambitious the plan. Now I got the information. Absolutely over 30% of the site will install the solar. Although maybe they will install 1 or 2 panels, they don't want to use the solar panel to power all the base station. They will work together with the hybrid, with grid together.
Oh, in France, which are coming up, basically, which every new house will have to have solar panels on the rooftop. Any car park with more than 80 spots will have to have solar panels on the rooftop. So this is a trend for sure.
With the energy crisis, the peak and valley price is bigger. The difference is bigger. So many operators choose the battery to participate charge or discharge to power the base station and also to earn the money from the grid. So what's your guys' opinion about this solution? Whether it will be the main application for the operator. When the price is higher, then they discharge with grid to power the base station or the core network. But when the electricity cost price is the lower, they will charge the battery. I know there's 2 countries. One is in Finland. One of the operator, they use their base station as the VPP, virtual power plant. And also in China, in my hometown, the Shenzhen city, they choose a 20,000 base station as the VPP. Now, what do you guys think about whether you can use the legacy battery to balance the price, or also as the VPP? What's your guys' opinion?
In Orange, we are strongly investigating this VPP model. And in fact, in France already, we have 20 megawatt of capability, of grid service capability, which are already deployed and put in place. But this capability is based on the lead-acid battery. The number of usage and number of cycling is limited. While at the same time, we must also keep the usage of the battery for our own resiliency. It's an equilibrium. It's a balance. As you say, in Finland, the VPP model is interesting, but it needs to have a mature enough energy market in the country. Mature both in terms of technology, because it needs real-time API, which you need to integrate your system with in order to provide frequency stabilization services and so on, which are millisecond response time services. And it needs also to have the revenue generated from the activity to be good enough to validate the business case.
Sure. Yeah.
In most of the European countries today, it's not the case. So you don't have the API, you don't have the technological maturity, and you don't have revenue. The grid services are not paid enough to justify the business case. I'm convinced it will evolve in the future, because it will be a service that will be more and more needed, but it takes time to make the evolution. And on top of this, at the end, it must be really a win-win solution, and it must be done in the way that it's predictable and stable on the long run. Because if I invest for battery, I will need to have minimum 5 years, but more probably 10 years visibility on the revenue I will be able to extract from my grid services. If I don't have this visibility, committed visibility, I will never do the additional investment on battery for the services.
I agree with you. Yeah, it's just a start, the pilot, the trial. Okay, please.
Just a start. Is for that we need regulation. We need to face even double taxation. For instance, in Spain, because we have energy tax, and then you need to face a double taxation. We need a change in regulation. But one of the nice surprises of the last year here in Spain were how fast advanced the installation of batteries in self-consumption. We are collecting the figures and from 2,500 megawatt installed, close to 500 megawatt installed batteries. The driver were the high prices and subsidies that came from the next generation programs. But with these subsidies, with these high prices, for more consumers that we could imagine, considered that his business case would be good with batteries. That was a very nice surprise too, with the sunny Spain. That is important too.
I think in the case of Finland, the VPP was strongly supported by the government, and in that sense, I believe that it's not something that an operator in the market in a different country can just stand up and then you go for it without making sure that there is first the regulation, and second there is the infrastructure. Because for you to be able to store and then sell it back to the grid, it needs real good infrastructure to be in place. So I believe that the case of Finland is a kind of school. It's a learning curve actually that started, and we are all watching. For now, we are trying to deploy our own solar plant in the conventional way, and at the same time, if you deploy it, if you go for that model in the market, you have to make sure that there is a kind of differentiation in the price depending on the time. In some markets, it's the same price, flat, from morning to the night, 24/7. Having a VPP actually in place, it will be serving your own needs. You'll not be able to sell it and gain something from actually the grid. So it needs infrastructure, it needs the law, it needs the regulation to be in place before being fully implemented.
And I think there is different kind of services you can have with VPP. When you disconnect for the grid for a certain amount of time, you just get off the grid, run on batteries for some times, and get paid for this. This is what we call staggering within Huawei, using the high price, low price, and mentioned you need to decrease your power consumption. So okay, I go on batteries. In the worst case, you can go on gensets as well. It might be one way to avoid the plant to collapse or to open another plant. The other one is the balancing of the grid between the power usage and the supply, and the frequency regulation that you mentioned, where speed is very important, and then you need to have a very intelligent network. If you don't have it, it's useless. But I agree. I mean, it's a service, so it's a service that needs to get paid.
Yeah.
So you need to have, regulation in place. You need to have price in place. I know in China you have some different price according to the different services.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And in fact, as you mentioned, you can say the most simple services is peak shaving.
Sure. Yeah.
Then you have the capacity services, and then you have your frequency reserve services.
Exactly.
That's the three different markets which are addressable. For example, as I mentioned, we are already in the capacity services. Dutch Telecom recently announced that they will invest in a strong battery park with a partner to develop also these services. But at the same time, as you mentioned, this can be done only if you can play with the tariff variation, with the hourly tariff variation. This is quite challenging because as a telco, business is not to play with the market of energy. So our business is to stabilize and have predictable energy price and availability of energy. So we tend to buy in advance our energy with an agreed known price. And in order to play with the market, it means that you move to the spot market. And moving to the spot market needs a specific know-how and resources and knowledge in order to play with this. And this is not our core business. So again, we need to balance how much resources is needed to be able to act on the spot market and to leverage this, what it means in terms of technology, hardware, investment, but also human resources to pilot this. So this is all the, I would say, the learning curve that we have to go through. And as it was mentioned, Finland is a very, very interesting case everyone is looking at.
Today, when you talk about opportunities, you see that climate change in reality is opening a lot of opportunities for most of the companies, including the MNOs. One of the things is that we might be tapping in new sectors, new domains, like the energy, for example. It's not our core business, but we are sitting at a level of leadership in terms of digital transformation. Sooner or later, actually, we might be actually one of those energy suppliers because we have the technology. And the only thing that we need to do is to bring the know-how in a specific domain, which is in the energy domain. And we don't need to do it ourselves. We need to partner with some very solid companies already in place in the market. If we show the direction, I'm sure that it's going to be something great. It's going to somehow allow us not only talk about our footprint, but also about our endprint, which means how do we help the other sectors actually get decarbonized. This is something very important. Our impact on the carbon removal process is very important as an ICT sector.
In Shenzhen, I can give some information why the telecom operator they would like to try. First of all, in Shenzhen, it's quite a new city. There are a lot of renewable energy to support the whole grid. And meanwhile, if you go to Shenzhen, sometimes you will find a lot of electrical vehicle. All the public transportation are changed to the electrical vehicle, and also including the taxi. I believe 20% of the private car become the electrical vehicle. So the input is not stable. It's renewable energy. The load is also random. It's also because you don't know which charging pile will be selected for the electrical vehicle when there's no power. So the Shenzhen government calculate they need 100 megawatt. To adjust the grid. So they discuss with the telecom operator. They have totally 60,000 base stations. Of course, they give a lot of subsidiary to support this one because it is a new and a pilot. They give a lot of money to the operator and also the grid how to make the pilot. So I fully agree with you guys. Whether it will be the mainstream solution as to adjust the grid, I'm not sure. But they try to find the new way, whether they can reuse your existing properties, your existing legacy site as the VPP. So today we discuss about the topic and about the challenge and also how to improve the energy efficiency, and how to increase the solar solution to power the base station, and also how to use your existing battery as the VPP or staggering. So thanks for you guys to give the very innovative idea. After in-depth discussion, we found several effective ways for operators to accelerate energy transformation. First, operators will not just be energy consumers, but also producer and enabler. Each watt will power more bits. Operator can maximize the value of infrastructure through the energy production and regulation. Bits can be used to manage works, to enable smooth transportation of the energy system. Secondly, more innovative technology and models such as VPP will be applied. Solutions such as solar can increase the proportion of renewable energy and allow more infrastructure to use green electricity. Third, digital technology will not only improve the efficiency of the conventional energy, but more importantly, help us to build a new power system based on the renewable energy to enable carbon neutrality across the various industries. Thank you for watching Carbon Talk. See you next time.